Hi everyone. Today I want to show you how to create this sweet milk vase with these pink flowers bursting from it. Today I'm using my watercolor brush pens. These are the Ecoline. They're Ultramarine Deep, Magenta, Cold Gray, and Bronze Green. And you can see by my setup I have my clean water and my Intuition size 6 round. I have another water off camera, and I'm going to start with my pre-cut 3x5 card. This is just my regular watercolor paper cut down to 3x5 size. It's 300 GSM B Paper Company, but whatever you have is fine. I'll be sure to list all of the products that I use in the description. All right, let's get started. The first time I did this little watercolor, I used traditional watercolors, and it just turned out so sweet, and I thought, this would be a great project to also do with my watercolor brush pens. And I really do love these Ecoline brush pens. They're so fun to work with. I do want to say that the first time I used them, when I first got them, I did not really know how to finesse them, not even a little. And that just took some trial and error. I just kind of had to figure out how I liked to use them, what kind of look I liked. And once I did that, I really did fall in love with them quite quickly. So you can see here, I'm shaping my jar or pitcher. And the great thing about these is that they are, well, one of the great things is that they are so rewettable. They reactivate so well just from water. So if you, like me, don't have perfect drawing abilities, which clearly I do not, you have some leeway with working with these. So I think what I want to do, since I have gone a bit heavier on this side, trying to get it in a shape that I liked, I think I'm going to pull the shadow over here. And that just means that I'll add a little more here at the top and then going down the side. And I would not worry too much about any of this. When I go to fill with the water, and you'll find when you do this too, you can play with that and pull the pigment really well. So really, these are just a delight to work with. So now I'm taking the magenta, and all I'm going to do here is just create some floral centers, and kind of dotty, kind of little hearts or V's. Not I'm not trying to make anything perfect. I do kind of have directions in mind, because I will tend to make the petals drop or kind of go to the side. I don't do a lot of flowers or florals just straight on, as if you're looking down at it at the center and the petals spreading like this. I like more of a directional look. If you're looking at the picture as if it's standing on a table, then those flowers are going to take on different directions. And so that's kind of one of the things I kind of like to be aware of when I'm painting. The other thing I like to do is, instead of having just a round or very symmetric pattern to my floral arrangement, I like to have it kind of going off one side and just having a little more character, and then maybe up a bit out here. Now, I am not a professional artist. I did not take any kind of art classes, but something that I'm just aware of from photography and some other principles is that something that is somewhat triangular is very pleasing to the eye. It draws the eye in. And so I do kind of, I feel like I'm kind of aware of that when I'm doing this. So now I just want to go in and start fleshing out this picture. And I want to start on the light side. And I want to kind of leave a little white space here and there. My attempt was to drag in as much of this pigment as I could so that it will all blend. And you can see my brush went off a little there, and I'm not going to worry about it. And then I'm just re-wetting my brush and dragging that along the pigment. And a little more water, and just kind of blending this in. And I like those little white spots because I feel like they give a little highlight. And you can see you really can direct these heavier pigment areas, really can direct all of it. And so I'm hoping, excuse me, I'm hoping I can go in here and push some of this pigment out. And one of the things about these Ecoline watercolor brush pens, and I have tried a couple of brands, but the Ecoline is very, very water activated. So I'm pretty happy with how this picture turned out. I really like this area right here where I feel like, you know, if this were a glazed piece, it might have that kind of look. And that's just a feature of working with these watercolor brush pens. It doesn't always work like that. It's not always cooperative like that. That's just kind of an accidental feature, maybe. I'm not sure how to express that, but and so I want to work on these flowers now, and basically I'm just taking clean water and brushing into these floral centers, and I'm brushing typically about 4 petal shapes, and then sometimes I like to make some of the petals a little shorter to kind of indicate the direction that they are, you know, tilting or leaning. And I don't mind at all if the petals overlap. I'm not concerned with keeping them separate. In fact, I think I tend to like it if they kind of touch each other, and if some of the pigments just kind of bleed together. I want this to have somewhat of an abstract feel in that it's not meant to be, this is not meant to be a photograph of this floral arrangement. So I like that, and I love working with these pigments because they just bleed out into the water so well. It's really so pretty. And if you get something like this little streak here, you can just direct that pigment a little bit. But again, not, you know, not worried about the outcome, just enjoying the process of doing it. And when you're done, I sometimes do this and I sometimes don't, but you have the option of going in with a nice yellow or an ochre into those centers and just kind of creating another layer of interest and some depth. but I don't always do that. I kind of like the almost monochromatic feel. And you can see that some of these I maybe used a little too much water, really pulled a lot of pigment out of the centers. However, that is not a problem at all because these Ecolines, they will bleed into the water. They're very juicy. So you can go back and add centers. You need a little more detail in there, and I do like that. I think kind of needed that. But these are just, you know, some blossoms. Who knows? I have no idea if there's anything that resembles these in nature, and I'm not going for any particular kind of flower. Some people would maybe take the time to pencil draw their vase, and you can certainly do that. You can do that first if you like. I'm not better with a pencil than I am with a marker, really, so I just tend to go right in. Now I want to work on this handle, and I'm thinking that the upper part would have a bit of highlight, and there might even be a little highlight on the inside here. So what I want to do is start with that, and then I'm going to kind of cut in. And I think that worked out really well. That actually worked better than I expected, so that's always nice. Maybe just kind of push a little pigment up into there. Okay, now I've left out the greens, and I'd like this to dry maybe just a tiny bit, just a little, so my greens are not bleeding into the pinks. And you can speed this up with a heat gun or a hair dryer, but I'm just going to let this dry naturally for a few minutes. Now while this is drying, I can add a little shadow beneath this picture. Now remember, this side is our shadow side, so I want to have a little more shadow to that side of the picture. And that's really all I'm going to do there, and then I'll just pull some water around that and kind of let it bleed into a little bit larger area beneath that. And while I did that, most of this pink has gotten decently dry. So I can start with my green, and I want to add a few stems just going up, maybe a little leaf here. And one of the things that I do, it doesn't make it right or wrong, but this is how I like to do it. I like to make just a side of the leaf, you know, maybe just part of it, because I use my plain water and then just finish off the leaf with that. I really like how that turns out, and I tend to be very happy with it. So I'm going to do a couple of things where I have a couple of different styles of leaves, but then also when I take my plain water, I will use pigment that is still on my brush, and I will create new leaves and new depth with that residue pigment that's still on my brush. I like to do that. I feel like, you know, it gives some different layers of just depth and tones to that. So you'll have some darker and lighter aspects. So I'm doing these little, I have no idea, kind of multi-leaf leaves, greenery, and then just some individual leaves. And one thing about these Ecolines is that sometimes the pigment is not completely consistent in the flow. Sometimes you get a whole lot of pigment and sometimes it's less. And right now I'm getting a whole lot of pigment from them, like almost dripping. So maybe just this to start, and then I'll see what I end up with on my brush and use that as well. And I could go in with a different color, and you certainly can too. I'm keeping this just kind of simple, and and I like it. You could also go in with a smaller brush, and I am considering doing that. This is my size 6 round, but I really may take just one size smaller. Well, okay, maybe not. My next size that I have handy is a size 3, and it seems kind of small. So then I'm just going to go in beside these, beside the greens, and let me just be very frank here. This, you can be as particular or not as you like. You can consider the stems and the leaves and where the light side and dark side might be. I really do not do that when I'm doing my leaves, and that's not necessarily right or wrong. I just don't concern myself with it very much. I don't know why, but I think I focus a little more on the shape I'm trying to get than I do the particulars of the, you know, darkness and whatnot. So I'm not getting a whole lot of pigment residue on this brush, but as I do, I can just take it and kind of dab it in. So I have kind of a light little leaf off in the background somewhere, and I just think it adds a little without really, you know, you're not trying to grab another color, you're not trying to coordinate. And then these individual leaves, I just kind of come in and brush in water on about half of it. So I like that. I want to work on the shadow, rinse my brush. I want to start on the light side and then brush right up to that picture. And then I'm going to rinse again and kind of dab that off, and then let this flow and blend. And I'll get probably some of this, I'm not sure what you call it, but it's where sometimes the water goes in there and makes kind of an odd thing. And some of the blue came off of the picture there, and I think that that's nice because in a reflection you might have aspects of whatever color is being reflected. And then I just want to put a little highlight in that, in the spout there. I got a little too much water and it's going to bleed to my leaf, and that's okay. I actually kind of like to muddy this a little because we would see a bit of that other side of the vase, the interior maybe. So there you go. And I would really just leave it like that. I would add a few more leaves, maybe in a different color, but I think that right there is just lovely. It'd be super sweet on a card or or anything. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you'll try it. Feel free to leave a comment or let me know. You can get me through Instagram, send me a DM if you try it and you'd like to show me your photo of it. Happy painting!